Hey everybody, and welcome to the Cinepacks YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can make awesome muzzle flash effects in DaVinci Resolve. So let's jump right into it. Now today we're going to be using free assets from cinepacks.com. So just head on over there, go to the free pack section and find the guns free sample pack and go ahead and download those for free. All you got to do is put in your email, everything else you can put in whatever. That's where you're going to get the download link, and from there we can go ahead and start editing. Now, of course, when you get the zip file, double click on it to open it up and make sure that you drag all of your assets outside of the zip file. That way you can use them and import them and extract them outside the zip file and bring them into DaVinci. Once you have extracted all your files, as usual, just go and find them in your media tab and drag them all into your media pool, and we're ready to edit. Alright, so today I have this little clip of this soldier here and he's shooting. I put a little marker down here where I want him to shoot, which would be right here. I want a cool little muzzle flash and him to turn around and add a little sound effect as well. Now inside this pack we have a sound effect, we have a glass bullet effect, we have the actual muzzle flash itself, a shell that fires, which you can see right there. It's a little hard to see, but all shells are. And we also have this just cool 3D gun effect that we can use to drag around. Alright, a few things to note about muzzle flashes before we begin. First of all, muzzle flashes are only ever one frame, alright? Half the time when filming actual muzzle flashes, if you have some extreme muzzle flashes, the camera won't even be able to pick up the entire muzzle flash in one frame. So for those reasons, muzzle flashes are only ever one frame. Second of all, muzzle flashes are big. For a point of reference, your muzzle flash, if you're shooting a pistol, should almost be the size of a pistol. If you're shooting a large assault rifle, it should probably be roughly the size of the barrel or larger. And then the third thing, as always, they always have a little bit of glow to them. They affect the surrounding area with light. And you're going to want to do a little bit of extra touch-up beyond just the basic glow that comes with the muzzle flash effects to make everything look really pristine. So all of these clips are Apple ProRes 4K resolution, so with alpha channels as well, so you can just drag and drop. So that's what we're going to do. Let's grab our muzzle flash. If we play our muzzle flash through, you'll see we have that, and then there's a little bit of smoke that you can't really see on this black screen. So why don't we drag it in here? Alright, so let's go zoom into our soldier here. Like I said, I put a marker down where he shoots, so I'm going to line it up right there, and there it is. Alright, let's click on our transform here so we can move this around. First thing, like I said, muzzle flashes are big, so let's go ahead and make this large. Now playing this through, you can see it does only last one frame, alright, and then we have our smoke, and if it's really subtle, but you can see the smoke kind of fly out of it. Now the problem is it's facing the wrong direction, so the first thing that we're going to do, go over to our inspector here and let's give it a flip. Alright, so then from there I still want to scale this just a little bit. I don't want to distort it much at all. Alright, don't push it, but let's give it just a little bit of a squeeze there, that way it's not so round, and then from there give it a little bit more of a zoom in both directions, like right there. Alright, perfect. And as you can see, it's a large muzzle flash. So leaving it at that, if we play it through, you can see it fires and you have a little bit of smoke and it just kind of goes out of the frame there and it's done. However, it looks pretty horrible. So what can we do to make it look better? Now, the first thing that you're going to want to do, let me move this into frame a little bit better. In many situations, not all of them, you're going to want to switch this to screen. And the moment we do that, as you can see, it's going to blow out with the sky and be a lot more realistic than just this crop, like copy and paste flash that we had before. Now, another thing that you can always do, we can always go into the color page and we can go ahead and manually adjust some of the tones of the muzzle flash just to fit the scene a little bit more. I think that is just a little bit too hot for this scene right now. There's a little too much contrast. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down the more to the color. I'm going to kind of bring it a little bit into a cooler sort of tone right there. Not too much at all. I don't want to get anything too blue, just a little bit, and then from there I'm also going to bring down the saturation ever so slightly, that way it's not so hot compared to the rest of the image here. Now one more thing, let's add a glow to it. So I'm going to duplicate this, alright, and I'm going to come over to the bottom layer and let's just add a blur to it. So if I go to our effects library, open effects, and let's type in blur. Let's grab a basic Gaussian blur. and let's drag it on top of here, and let's just crank it all the way up. So if we crank it all the way up, as you can see, that gives it its nice hazy sort of background glow to it. And personally, if I turn this on and off, you can see the difference, and it just looks a lot more realistic and is kind of flaring out the camera shot a lot better. In darker situations, you're gonna have more of a glow. In brighter situations like we have here, we want to kind of keep it to a minimal sort of effect. So it's gonna be up to you and your discretion of how you want to make the muzzle flash appear as realistic as possible. All right, now what I want to do here is, since we've messed with this so much, let's mess with the smoke at the end of the muzzle flash here. Now to do this, I'm going to grab this and I'm just going to click Control B because I want to split it and separate it from the muzzle flash that we just edited, because it's so heavily edited right now. We don't want to do the same to the smoke. Now, once we have our smoke here, let's go ahead and switch it back to normal so we can actually see our smoke a little bit. So if we go ahead and play this through, you can see there we have a little bit of our smoke blast, and it kind of expands. It's very subtle, but it adds to the frame nonetheless. Playing this through, we have a nice little pop there, and it's really coming together. All right, going back to the muzzle flash for a moment though, let's go ahead and grab an adjustment clip under the effects tab, and let's place one right over here because we want to add a little bit of artificial light here. So hold down Shift and click the right bracket, and that will go ahead and trim this down for us. And now we can go ahead and just use this one adjustment clip to edit inside of our color page. Now what I want to do, I want to bring up the offset a little bit so everything's just a little bit brighter, and then I want to give everything just a slightly warmer tint, very slight, and just bring everything up. And then I want to go over to our masks and grab a curve, and just what you got to do is just mask out wherever you think is going to be affected by this muzzle flash. So it'd probably be down here, more so around his arms, going down here, probably a little bit of his body here, but then it's probably going to wrap back up. Let's see, it's going to go out of frame, and then it's kind of going to wrap back up his body here, curve around his arm ever so slightly. If you hold down your mouse and drag it while you're making this mask, you'll be able to make a smooth mask like I am right now, and you can adjust it. Hold down Control to kind of bend this a little bit more, and then it's probably going to come up his body here, wrap around his head, and then go down and back right there. Perfect. All right, then what you want to do is go over to the softness and bring it, just crank it up a lot, because we want to really soften that light. And if we turn this on and off, you can see just the ever so slightly light that it is casting. Now we are outside and we are in a brightly lit scene, so you don't want to overdo this. Your head's going to be telling you to keep cranking up the offset or something until you really notice it. But trust me, you don't want to overdo this because it's going to look unnatural. You are in a very bright outdoor scene, so it's not going to be as noticeable. If you're in a darker scene, then it's going to light up the whole room. So if we go back to our edit page and play it through, there you go. You can see we have a nice little bit of a flash, and it casts, and everything comes together pretty well. Now this wouldn't be complete if we didn't have a shell firing. So there is footage of a shell just flying off screen. So I'm gonna just drag that in, and I'm just gonna scale this down and kind of position it right over the gun. Although it's a little bit hard to see, it is always important to add these sort of things. So let's go ahead and just keyframe it right there, and we'll go to the end of the frame where it flies out of frame and just put it right down there and right there, and it'll be out of frame. Now let's just give this a little bit of a curve here. So if we right click here and click this to smooth, then you can see we can kind of do that for both keyframes here and just give it a little bit more of a linear path right there, like right around there. Perfect. So if we go through our arrow keys, you can see the bullet just kind of flies out of scene. There it is, and it just kind of falls out of the frame. Let's go into our color editor though. It is really dark, so let's bring up the offset just a little bit and the gain as well. That way it has a little bit more of a highlight, and I'm looking at it right there. So going back a little bit, it's a little bit too hot, so I'm going to bring the temperature down just a tad, And then let's bring up the gain still more so it has a little bit more highlight, and mess with the contrast. And with all of that, I think it matches the scene pretty decently. The last thing we're gonna wanna do is add a sound effect, which this pack includes. Now, this is more for a pistol, but I think we can probably get away with dragging this on top of here. So let's just line it up with the shot here, play it through. And it's a little light right now. Now, if the sound isn't hitting it for exactly what you want, go over to your inspector and turn on your equalizer here. And you can mess around with it and tinker with it until you get exactly the sound that you want. So I want to make it a little bit heavier, so I'm going to bring down our higher frequencies and go ahead and just kind of drift up the lower frequencies so it has a thicker, kind of heavier sound to it. So if we play this through, now we have a heavier thing. Now it's way too muted and it sounds way too far away. So let's bring up our higher frequencies. And that sounds pretty nice. I'm pretty content with that. Bring it a little bit higher, and that sounds nice. I like it a lot. Now, just to finesse this a little bit more, why don't we go ahead and add an echo? Because we are outside, we have some surrounding mountains. It might just sound nice if we can hear the echo of the sound ricocheting from across the desert. All right, so I'm gonna go to our effects library. I'm gonna type in echo, which would be under the audio effects. And if we drag this on, and what I like to do is change the preset to like large whole, and maybe increase the feedback delay on both of these just a tad. But I don't think we're gonna mess with it too much. More so, I'm just gonna trim this down so the echo doesn't continue too long. And if we play this again, now it sounds like it's outside, which is really nice. And there you go, pretty easy. We have a nice little muzzle flash effect. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the pack, there are some cool 3D like glow effects, like golden gun effects here that you can just drag on top, which kind of goes perfectly with this footage of this golden gun here that I found. So you can just kind of drag this around. You can make cool patterns with it. You can 100% change the color as well. Go into the color page and just shift the hue around. And there, now we have a pink gun. However, I like that the gold goes with gold. And the final thing that we can kind of work with is the glass bullet hole. So you can do effects that like shatter the screen. So have someone shoot at the camera. If I click on this, let me switch the scaling to full or fill. So if you press this, you can have it shoot at the screen, or you can make it look like the guy shot the cameraman or something if you play this through. I'd experiment with different blend modes as well. Something like screen could probably look better. But a very cool technique, however, though, is if you have a gun shooting at a camera or something, that you actually want to kind of skim the actual camera lens, is what you could do is grab this and scale this up a lot and drag it to more of the corner of the screen, all right? That way it's not filling up the whole screen. That way it just sort of skims the camera, all right? Then to finish it off, give this a nice blur, and just give it a nice Gaussian blur. Drag that on top, and then give that a really nice blur. Even scale it up even more, just to make it look even more realistic. That way the blend kind of shatters through. And if you go ahead and play that through, and then if you experiment, play it through, I want more of these cracks, so I'm gonna bring it down. And if you play that through, bam, you have this awesome skimming effect of the bullet skimming the edge of the camera or something. I've seen this in movies like John Wick, and it looks really cool. Now, what if we wanna do something really extra here? We could go ahead and actually track in the glass onto something like a window here. So I have a really basic shot of a window here, literally just taken on an iPhone. But what if we wanna track like bullet impact marks onto the glass? That way, like while you're in a fight scene or something, you can have these effects show up. Bringing it on into Fusion, let's go ahead and do a quick track. I'm gonna click Shift Spacebar and I'm gonna pull up our tracker, and just the basic tracker will do. And if we click on this, let's go ahead and position one on each corner of this frame here. Add a second one, bring it down right there, add another, put it right around there, add a fourth one, and we have our square. And go ahead and click track forward and let it go through. Alright, and it has finished tracking through a good chunk of our footage here, and I'm gonna go ahead and, so let's go ahead and keep working with it. So clicking on a tracker here, we're gonna wanna change the operation to corner positioning, and that's gonna basically track out our little window here and create a perspective for us. Now we need to put our actual bullet hole. So let's grab our bullet hole from our media pool, bring it down here, and where do we want it to show up? I want it to show up like right on frame 15 roughly. So let's click on keyframes, bring it in, and let's drag this over so it starts on frame 15. Let me zoom in here, click this and drag it right there. Lastly, I want it to run all the way through, so let's go into our global in and out here and drag this all the way to the end. That way the glass does not disappear on us. Closing our keyframe out, let's go ahead and kind of position this right here, and let's add a transform node to it. Now what I want to do here is I want to shrink this down before I attach it to the window. Otherwise it's going to appear way too big. So let's just go over to our sides, shrink this down. As you can see, right now we're not looking at anything right now just because we haven't plugged it in. We can always work on this a little bit afterwards, and I'm going to drag the center over just a tad. All right, once we do that, now we can drag this into the tracker. And if we do that, as you can see, if we zoom in here, let me close our window out so we see the full thing. Right there is our awesome little bullet hole effect. All right, if we play this, bam, you can see that you can actually see the bullet hole is tracked to the mirror. It looks really cool, and it actually moves with the glass and everything. It's really neat, and I like it a lot. Now, of course, if you wanted to add some sort of blending modes or even color correction to it, you can push it really far. I'd go over here and you edit that in the tracker, the blending mode. So click on the apply mode, change it to something like overlay maybe. And if I were to click on that, there you can see it kind of blends it a little bit better. And there you go, guys, we have a bullet hole tracked to our window. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you had fun messing around working with it. If you guys want to buy the full gun stock footage effect pack from cinepacks.com, head on over there right now and use the discount code SAMPLE15. SAMPLE15, it'll give you 15% off your order. So as always, have a great day, guys, and peace.